Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your fascinating sources and dive deep.
That's right.
Today we're exploring the Maratha Empire,
Yeah,
but not just their size and influence.
right.
We're uncovering the secrets behind how they won against the odds.
Exactly.
Think military texts, historical accounts, even architecture.
Oh, yeah.
Because fortresses, they play a role too. Ready to unlock the brilliance of Maratha tactics in key campaigns?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
It's a fascinating period in Indian history. The Marathas weren't always the biggest or the best equipped force, yet they took on empires and emerged as a dominant power. Their ingenuity and adaptability are truly remarkable.
Exactly. And to understand that ingenuity, we need to grasp the context. The Marathas, they didn't rise in a vacuum.
Right.
They were surrounded by powerful rivals, like the Mughals, vying for control in a period of intense political change.
The decline of the Mughal Empire is key here. It created a power vacuum, a stage for new actors like the Marathas and the Sikhs to emerge and challenge the established order. It's a recurring theme throughout history. Shifts in power dynamics create opportunities for those ready to seize them.
It's like a giant game of strategy unfolding, but with real-world consequences.
Yeah.
And this changing landscape, it forced the Marathas to develop strategies that played to their strengths, not their weaknesses. This is where their mastery of guerrilla warfare comes in.
Yes.
A classic tactic for those fighting against larger, more established forces.
Precisely. Guerrilla warfare relies on mobility, surprise, and intimate knowledge of the terrain. And the Marathas, operating primarily in the Deccan Plateau, they were masters of using the landscape to their advantage.
Okay, so picture this. The Deccan Plateau. Rugged terrain, dense forests, hidden valleys. Not exactly ideal for those big, slow-moving armies, right?
Right.
But the Marathas, they knew every nook and cranny, every hidden path. They could appear seemingly out of nowhere, strike quickly, and then vanish back into the landscape before their enemies could react.
It's a testament to their deep connection to the land, something that we see echoed throughout Indian history. The terrain has always played a crucial role in shaping the subcontinent's cultural and political landscape. The Marathas understood this implicitly and turned it into a powerful military advantage.
It's like they weaponized geography.
Ah,
And this brings us to another key element of their military success, the cavalry. We're not talking about just guys on horseback here. We're talking about a highly mobile, highly skilled force that was the backbone of the Maratha army.
The Maratha cavalry was renowned for its speed, endurance, and ability to operate effectively in a variety of terrains. They were equally adept at lightning-fast raids, disrupting enemy supply lines as they were at engaging in open battle. This versatility gave them a significant edge over their opponents who often struggled to adapt to their fluid and unpredictable tactics.
It's like they were playing a different game altogether. While their opponents were stuck in these rigid, traditional formations, the Maratha cavalry was darting around the battlefield, striking where least expected, and then disappearing before anyone could counter them. It must have been incredibly frustrating to fight against such an elusive force.
Imagine trying to pin down a swarm of bees. That's the kind of challenge the Marathas presented to their adversaries. And this constant pressure, this ability to strike and retreat at will, had a devastating psychological impact on their enemies. It wore them down, eroded their morale, and ultimately made them more willing to negotiate on Maratha terms.
Speaking of psychological impact, this Bargir system they used, tell me more about that. It sounds almost too good to be true.
The Bargir system was essentially a logistical marvel. Each cavalryman had multiple horses, allowing them to cover vast distances without tiring their mounts. They could switch horses mid-journey, always having a fresh mount ready.
That's brilliant. No wonder they could outmaneuver and outlast their opponents. But this system must have required incredible organization and resources. How did they manage the logistics of supplying and managing so many horses, especially in the midst of a campaign?
That's where their deep understanding of the local terrain and their strong ties to the local population came into play. They were able to utilize local resources, establish supply networks, and even rely on the support of local communities who often saw them as liberators rather than conquerors. Their logistical network was really a testament to their organizational skills. The Marathas weren't just skilled warriors, they were masters of planning and adaptation, which allowed them to maintain their momentum even in challenging circumstances.
It sounds like they were playing 3D chess while their opponents were still figuring out checkers. But this tactical brilliance wasn't just about winning battles, it was about achieving strategic objectives, expanding their influence, and ultimately creating an empire. Let's dive into some of those key campaigns that really showcase their strategic vision.
One campaign that stands out is their conquest of Bijapur in the late 17th century. Bijapur was a powerful kingdom in its own right, but the Marathas, under the leadership of Shivaji Maharaj, were able to exploit internal divisions and use a combination of siege warfare and open battles to capture the city. It was a major victory that solidified their position as a rising power in the Deccan.
So it wasn't just brute force. It was about understanding the political landscape, exploiting weaknesses, and using a multi-pronged approach to achieve their objectives. It sounds like they were masters of both strategy and tactics.
Precisely. And the strategic thinking was also evident in their campaigns against the Mughals. The Marathas knew they couldn't match the Mughal Empire in terms of sheer size or resources, so they adopted a strategy of attrition, targeting their supply lines, harassing their armies, and strategically choosing when and where to engage in battle.
That makes sense. It's like the classic underdog strategy. Avoid direct confrontation. Wear down your opponent and strike when they're most vulnerable. But this must have required immense discipline and patience. It wasn't just about winning battles, it was about winning the long game.
Exactly. The Marathas understood that a war of attrition requires a different mindset, one that prioritizes long-term objectives over short-term gains. They were willing to retreat when necessary, conserve their strength, and wait for the right opportunity to strike. This strategic patience was one of their key strengths.
It's fascinating how their tactics seem to mirror their overall approach to empire building. They weren't about conquering vast swaths of territory in one fell swoop. They were about strategically expanding their influence, consolidating their gains, and gradually building a powerful and resilient empire.
Their success lay in their ability to adapt to different situations, to shift between playing the aggressor and the defender as needed. This flexibility, combined with their tactical brilliance and strategic vision, made them a formidable force.
It's almost as if they were playing multiple games of chess simultaneously, always thinking several moves ahead, anticipating their opponent's actions, and adjusting their strategies accordingly. This brings us to a question that's been on my mind. Did this reliance on adaptability and maneuverability on avoiding direct confrontations ever come back to bite them? Were there situations where a more aggressive approach might have been more beneficial?
That's a very astute observation. While their flexibility was undoubtedly a strength, there were instances where it could be perceived as a weakness. For instance, some historians argue that their tendency to avoid decisive battles allowed adversaries to regroup and prolong conflicts.
So there's a potential downside to constantly being the nimble, evasive force. It's like that age-old debate in martial arts. Is it better to be the unyielding rock or the flowing water?
Exactly. And the Marathas, perhaps more than any other empire in Indian history, embodied that concept of flowing water, adapting to the circumstances, always seeking the path of least resistance, but always moving forward.
But even water can be dammed or diverted or eventually evaporate under the heat of a relentless sun. What were some of the external pressures that the Maratha Empire faced, especially as it grew larger and more influential?
As the Marathas rose to prominence, they inevitably attracted the attention of other ambitious powers. The Mughal Empire, while in decline, was still a formidable force, and there were other regional powers vying for control.
It's like that saying, the taller the tree, the stronger the wind.
Mm.
And speaking of wind, there was a new storm brewing on the horizon, the British East India Company.
The arrival of the British East India Company marked a turning point in Indian history. They brought with them not only advanced military technology, but also a new approach to warfare, one that emphasized naval power and strategic alliances. This presented a challenge unlike any the Marathas had faced before.
It's almost like they were playing a different game altogether with rules that the Marathas were still trying to understand. How did the Marathas respond to this new threat? Did they try to adapt their tactics, or did they stick to the strategies that had served them so well in the past?
Initially, the Marathas underestimated the British, seeing them as just another trading company vying for influence. But they soon realized that the British had ambitions far beyond commerce. They were determined to establish political and military dominance in India, and they were willing to use any means necessary to achieve their goals.
It's like realizing that the friendly chess opponent you've been playing against is actually a grandmaster, with a whole other level of strategy in mind. How did this realization change the Marathas' approach to warfare and empire building?
The Marathas, being pragmatists at heart, realized they needed to adapt. They tried to modernize their army, acquire new weapons, and even sought alliances with European powers to counter the British threat. However, they were hampered by internal divisions, a lack of resources, and the sheer ruthlessness of the British East India Company.
It sounds like a classic case of being caught between a rock and a hard place. They couldn't rely solely on their traditional tactics against a technologically superior foe, but they also lacked the resources and unity to fully modernize their army and counter the British on their own terms. This internal division you mentioned, was this a result of their decentralized structure, that same structure that had allowed them to expand so rapidly in the first place?
Exactly. As the Maratha Empire grew, it became increasingly decentralized, with powerful regional leaders asserting their autonomy. This decentralization, while initially a strength, became a liability as it fostered internal conflicts and weakened the empire's ability to present a united front against external threats.
It's a reminder that even the most successful systems have their limitations, and that what works in one context might not work in another. But before we delve further into the Marathas' challenges and eventual decline, let's take a moment to appreciate the remarkable achievements of their military leaders and the legacy they left behind. It's fascinating how a system that enabled their rise could also contribute to their eventual challenges. But before we get to those challenges, I'd love to explore some specific examples of Maratha military leadership. Who were some of the figures that truly embodied this blend of tactical brilliance and strategic thinking?
Well, you can't talk about the Marathas without mentioning Shivaji Maharaj, the founder of the empire. He was a visionary leader, a master strategist, and a skilled warrior. He understood the importance of choosing the right battlefield, of exploiting the enemy's weaknesses, and of maintaining a strong and disciplined army.
He seems like the embodiment of that flowing water approach we talk about, adaptable, strategic, always a step ahead. Were there any particular campaigns or battles that really showcased his leadership?
The capture of the Torna fort in 1646 is a great example. Shivaji, still in his teenage years at the time, recognized the strategic importance of the fort and devised a plan to take it from the Bijapur Sultanate. He used a combination of stealth, deception, and surprise to infiltrate the fort and secure a crucial victory that marked the beginning of his rise to power.
It's like a classic underdog story using wit and cunning to overcome a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. And this emphasis on fortresses and strategic locations seems to have been a recurring theme in Maratha military thinking.
Absolutely. The Marathas understood the importance of controlling key forts and mountain passes both for defensive purposes and as launching points for their campaigns. They developed a sophisticated system of fortifications, incorporating elements of local architecture and adapting their designs to the specific terrain. These forts weren't just static defenses, they were integrated into their overall military strategy, providing them with secure bases from which to operate.
So they were masters of both offensive and defensive warfare, using their knowledge of the terrain and their engineering skills to create a formidable network of fortifications. It's like they turned the entire Deccan Plateau into a giant strategic chessboard, with each fort representing a crucial piece in their game of empire building.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of strategic chess moves, we can't forget about the legendary Maratha general Bijapur. He was a brilliant military tactician known for his lightning-fast maneuvers, his ability to outwit his opponents, and his decisive victories against much larger armies.
He sounds like the embodiment of that lightning-fast cavalry element we've been discussing. Was there a particular campaign that stands out as a showcase of his brilliance?
The Battle of Palkht in 1728 is considered one of Bajirau's most impressive victories. He was facing the Nizam-ul-Mulk, the ruler of Hyderabad, who had a much larger and better equipped army. But Bajirao, using a combination of feints, rapid marches, and strategic positioning, completely outmaneuvered the Nizam, cutting off his supply lines and forcing him to surrender. It was a masterpiece of military strategy and a testament to Bajirao's tactical genius.
It's incredible how they could consistently outmaneuver and outsmart their opponents, even when facing overwhelming odds. It speaks to a deep understanding of not only military tactics, but also the psychology of warfare.
The Marathas understood the importance of demoralizing their opponents, of disrupting their plans, and of creating a sense of chaos and confusion. They knew that a demoralized enemy is often more willing to negotiate or retreat, even if they still have superior numbers or resources.
So it wasn't just about physical force, it was about mental agility, about using strategy and psychology to gain an edge. It's like they were playing a game of chess on multiple levels on the battlefield, in the minds of their opponents, and on the grand stage of empire building.
Exactly, and this multifaceted approach is what made them such a formidable force for over a century. They were able to challenge and often defeat much larger and more established empires, not just through brute force, but through a combination of strategic brilliance, tactical adaptability, and psychological warfare.
But even the most brilliant strategists face limitations, especially when dealing with internal divisions and powerful external forces. We've talked about the challenges posed by the British East India Company. Were there any other external threats that contributed to the Maratha Empire's eventual decline?
The Marathas also faced challenges from the Afghans who launched several invasions into India during the 18th century. While the Marathas were able to repel these invasions, they drained their resources and weakened their ability to counter the growing British threat. It was a classic case of being caught between two powerful adversaries, a situation that often leads to difficult choices and strategic compromises.
So it wasn't just one factor, but a confluence of events, a perfect storm of internal and external pressures that eventually led to their decline. It's almost a Shakespearean tragedy, a powerful empire brought down by a combination of its own internal struggles and the machinations of ambitious rivals.
It's important to remember that empires, like all human endeavors, are not static entities. They rise, they flourish, they face challenges, and they eventually decline. The Maratha Empire, while it ultimately fell, left behind a remarkable legacy of military innovation, strategic brilliance, and cultural influence that continues to fascinate and inspire us today.
Absolutely. Their story is a testament to the power of human ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And while their empire may have faded, their legacy lives on in the annals of history, reminding us of the enduring impact of strategic thinking, tactical brilliance, and the unwavering human spirit.
And for our listener who provided these fascinating sources, we hope this deep dive has provided some fresh insights and perhaps even sparked some new questions. The Maratha Empire, with its complex history, its remarkable achievements, and its ultimate decline, offers a rich tapestry of lessons for anyone interested in military history, strategic thinking, and the enduring human drive to overcome challenges.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep seeking those hidden gems of knowledge. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those imaginations engaged.